Hola, welcome to the Timers Playbook podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Now, before we get into today's episode, I wanted to ask a quick favor. If you're enjoying the show, please hit the subscribe button and leave a rating and a review. This helps other people find the podcast and get more out of it. And if you know any other timer that might benefit from listening, please share the episode with them. I really appreciate your support. Now, let's get it. Welcome to this episode of the Timers Playbook. On today's episode, I have Charlie Post. Charlie, how are you doing, man? You were just letting me know now about what you do. Professional coach. You studied industrial psychology, you said?
Just psychology, not industrial.
Oh, just psychology. Yeah. Okay. And how does that help you in your daily job of coaching young people?
Funny that when I did it, I didn't realize what I was doing. I just picked psychology and BA, just because it was something to keep me busy with while I was playing rugby. And then you realize later in life that you can actually use all that stuff, and I use it hugely in everything I do in every day with the boys, because you got to get into their heads. So it's turned out I picked the right thing to study just because I needed to keep busy. Okay.
So what does your day-to-day look like? I mean, we're sitting here, you are sitting in your shorts, seem pretty relaxed, beautiful scenery. What does the day-to-day look like?
So, I mean, this current time of year, the boys are all writing exams. So we try and get a few sessions in just after their exams. So my day-to-day is get up, do any of my admin, emails, whatnot. Got a lovely boss who doesn't mind me working from home a bit, so I get all of that out the way in the morning. Then I come in and meet the boys in the gym, 10, 11, whenever their exams finish, and take them through their strides in the gym. And then we'll generally head out onto the field and do a bit of a practice session on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then afternoons is any extra admin, any extras with the boys, that kind of stuff. It's not an extremely busy time of year because we're kind of wrapping up. An average day in season is a lot busier.
Yeah.
Then we're dealing with the admin of fixtures and injuries and recoveries and game plans and video analysis, analyzing last week's game, prepping for the next week's game. Then also in the gym, on the field. But it's flipping awesome. I mean, It's exactly what I love to do. There's no better place to be than in the gym or on the rugby field, and when I'm not there watching rugby and analyzing it.
Okay, I can imagine, man. So you work a lot with young people and parents alike, right? And your primary focus is rugby. Hey, do you do other sporting codes?
No, I help with the conditioning in some of the other sports, and I help a little bit with the athletic development program. But no, my focus is mainly rugby.
Yeah. And what are some of the toughest things you come across when faced with parents, right? Because I'll speak as a parent of two young boys, and a lot of us fathers have these expectations of our kids, whatever they might be, right? Which we tend to project onto our children. So what are some of the challenges and some of the conversations you're having with parents in relation to that?
So, I mean, I don't know if it's just me or if I was lucky or what it was, but as I took over the head coach role just before I was appointed director of rugby here, because of COVID and because of only coming in here in 2019, I hadn't got to know the boys. So I took it upon myself to message every boy and every parent to have a personal meeting to explain the expectations and what's needed to play at an elite level of rugby and be in the first team squad. At the same time, I got a group of parents together. Well, there was already a group of parents very keen to help rugby, and they came together to assist me. So by sort of opening up to them and allowing them to help and introducing myself to the parents and explaining the expectations, I've actually been really lucky that I haven't had any problems. All I've had is assistance from the parents here. They've been unbelievable.
Okay.
There's been, when there are concerns about selection or something like that, they'll just send me a message and I'll go sit down like I am with you and we'll have a coffee and I'll chat through it with them. And then they, as long as there's reasoning behind it, they go away happy.
Are you finding there's less pressure on the young boys to perform or whatever, to maybe make the first team, not also from themselves?
I'm not sure it's less pressure. Yeah, I think it's just managed better. Because we in open comms with the parents all the time, saying, guys, just be there for your kid. You know, make sure he's on time and that kind of thing. But you don't need to pressurize him to be the best.
Yeah.
Like, we'll do that as coaches. We'll coach them. We'll make them better. The best thing a parent can do is just support them. And that's explained to the parents quite often. So I think most of them are buying into that. You know, maybe the kids will give you a different perspective and they feel like they're under pressure.
Yeah.
I hope they don't.
No, you guys have got them well trained. I spoke to some of them. You guys have got them well trained. They know the script.
But I think they enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
I think they're having fun out here. You know, we do feedback surveys at the end of the season, and I think, you know, 98% of it was all positive on the coaches we've got. But it wasn't the same last year. You know, it was brand new last year. It just started. We had a few issues in the coaching area, maybe one or two more moans from the parents.
Yeah.
And we've hashed those out. And this year, way better. And I think I've had turnover of one coach. So for next year.
Yeah.
And the
so
rest
you're
we've
doing
kept.
right.
So
Okay.
yeah, I think we're doing the right stuff.
And then from a philosophy point of view, to parents out there that let me say the parent, maybe the kid is about to go into high school. What would be your approach and say, cool, he's going into, let's say, like a boys' school where sports is a big thing. How would you approach it in terms of getting him ready and also understanding that he still needs to develop, right? He's a learner, ultimately. He isn't a professional rugby player.
100%. So, I mean, I don't have it on me here, but our sort of rugby coaching philosophy, because of being in my studies, doing this master's in education as well, I've kind of made a curriculum. And our sort of ultimate goal in that curriculum is not about winning.
Okay.
It's about creating better people. And that's what we're trying to explain to the parents. You know, we're here to focus on creating better people. If they send their kids here, if they buy into what we're selling, the boys in the rugby program are going to come out being better brothers, you know, eventually better fathers, better students at university, team players, those kind of things. It's not about rugby itself, you know. The rugby will get better because of that. But that's our ultimate philosophy, and that's through mentorship, by getting the right coaches. And I feel we've got great coaches, so I make sure the parents know we've got great mentors for your boys. So through the mentorship, and then by just making things fun,
Yeah.
I mean, so I mean, that's why, like I was saying to you earlier, we're already doing sessions with the under 13 boys
guys.
coming through to under 14 to show them what we do and show the parents, and that way we can engage with them early, and they'll understand our expectations early, and that, you know, it's, what do you say, prevention's better than cure.
Yeah.
So we want to be proactive and get ahead of the game and all that stuff. Yeah.
So had this always been your philosophy? Because, I mean, we went to school together like 23 years ago. What you're saying now, it's not what I felt back then in terms of how even just development of us as learners was approached. So is this something that you picked up over the years, or had you always had that kind of philosophy in terms of your approach?
No, it's definitely something you pick up with age.
So how were you before, and what changed it?
No, listen, I mean, I didn't coach when I was that young. I just played, and obviously we played to win, but we also absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
So, you know, the philosophy of more the fun and the enjoyment and that mentorship program is really pushed in the younger years. But as they get to the more elite level, don't get me wrong, winning is important.
Yeah.
Like, it's as important as anything. Because when the under 13 guy sees the first team winning, he wants to come to the school. So it's twofold. You know, I'm not as worried, we're not as worried under 14s winning, under 15s winning.
Yeah.
They'll win a few, they'll lose a few, but they'll have fun.
Yeah.
When we get to that open level, trust me, I am competitive.
Yeah.
And
So it's winning everything.
And winning, it's not everything, not
Yeah.
at all. The other stuff's more important. And
Okay.
the other stuff will all lead to winning.
Yeah.
So you never have winning as a goal.
Yeah.
It's not there.
Okay.
It'll happen.
Right.
It'll just happen if the other stuff's all in the right place, you know.
Okay.
That's kind of the philosophy. But yeah, when you're playing at our age, when I was young, you know, you want to win everything, don't you? That's
No,
why
that
you
was all
play.
that was there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
why you play. And I think my boys feel the same. One of the hardest things is to try to get them to to not focus on that.
Yeah.
So guys, forget the win. That'll come if you just do this. So we have sessions with either myself or our sports psychologist where we got to go break those goals down because they're like, oh, so I want to make Craven Week, or we want to beat St. John's, and you're gonna be like, okay, how do you do that?
Okay. Yeah.
Take it back
Practical
a notch.
steps.
Yeah, take it back, and then they'll be like, oh, but I got to scrum well, and you're like, okay, but take that back another notch. What do you got to do to scrum well? So I've got to get low. Okay, well, and I've got to be strong in this position. How do you get strong in that position? I've got to go back to the gym. So like, you keep breaking it down into these small little building blocks, and then they try and then they get it right.
Which are actually reachable, right? Because if the goals are into chunks that you can actually reach and attain them.
100%.
So that's interesting. So what else? I mean, I'm sitting here. I didn't like a school psychologist. I don't know what that is. But what are some of the other tools that you guys have that went there 20 years ago? That's like the times have moved on. You're obviously dealing with young people that living in a different era where they have access to so much external noise, right? And now the approach has to have changed and it has to be applicable to the times we're in. So what are some of the other tools that you guys are employing on top of such things as a school psychologist?
I mean, we are just so lucky, compared to what we had back in the day. I mean, these kids are so spoiled and they have no idea, If you turn around and you look at the gym back there, which used to be the art building when we were at school,
I think it was also like an art building / what is the place
when
you get
used
injured?
To smoke or something, I don't know.
Yeah, it was called the Glass House.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, no, that was
a
dodgy place.
But I mean, they've got this gym, and then the expertise in that gym. There's about 6-7 trainers in there who are all absolutely brilliant at what they do. One of them who we've employed full time as a conditioning coach. I have a conditioning background, but to me, as I started here, I was trying to do conditioning and defense and attack and everything, and it was too much. So, he's taken over that. So they're so lucky. That's one there. That's the first little thing. Obviously, things like a sports psychologist makes a massive difference. To have a session with her every now and again, game changer for the boys' mindset. Especially with last 2 seasons we've been through when we haven't done so well. You need a reset. Video analysis. I mean, we get every game filmed. The guys get statistics on every game, so they can actually compete with each other. Like, I made 13 tackles, you made 10. Kicking. All the statistics are there. So they get that each week. We can sit down and watch video together. Even more so with technology, I can save time by going through the video on Sunday, and I just send it to the boys, on WhatsApp, and be like, "Okay, we need to fix this. You were just in the wrong position there. This is what we got to do next week for that game." And it's just like, I mean, in our day, I think our coach was recording from one VHS to the other to try and get clips. So the advantages we have are just like unlimited. And then, like you said, outside noise, if you can change that from the noise to being helpful. So the Instagrams, the TikToks, the things like that, you can now send boys clips.
Yeah.
So, I can send them training clips. I can send them, a cool move that someone did on the weekend, and we're going to do this, and like, so if you can use all that stuff to your advantage, it's actually brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting approach. Now, your family is in Cape Town. You're in Joburg. You've got
100%.
this whole world that you're looking after. How do you manage that?
The world I'm looking after distracts me from missing my family, I think.
Yeah.
Like I said to you earlier, I'm going down like once every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then the holidays are coming now. But the only thing that keeps me distracted from really missing them is my work.
Okay.
So, I mean, I bury myself in it.
Yeah. So you're raising a little girl.
Yeah.
How old is she now?
She's 12.
She's 12 now. She's about to go into high school, I'm assuming, right? Or is it what?
She's
standard 4.
She's in standard 4, going to standard 5, and then it's high school.
I'm glad when you say that. I say that you understand what standard 4 is.
100%. It made so much more sense.
Okay, and what's your mindset around that? Like, how are you feeling about that? Particularly because, again, you are so exposed to young people, mindsets, devices, and so forth. How are you guys and your wife approaching that?
It's difficult, because she's my stepdaughter. I feel like I treat her like she's my daughter and she's my own. But I don't think we fully connected, obviously, like her and her mom. Yeah. They're obviously just, 2 peas in a pod. and with them going away now, it's also very difficult. But sure, I look at her and she's 12 going on 18 already. And yeah, I don't know how I'm going to handle it, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, we manage her day to day. Mom makes most of the major decisions and whatnot. I give her my 2 cents worth on what I think, phone screen time should be compared to reading, compared to whatever. But at the end of the day, Bron makes those decisions about her daughter. I think she takes into account everything I do sort of offer.
Yeah.
But I'm not overbearing on how I go about managing it with Riley, She's a very soft-hearted kid as well, so she doesn't take. I'm definitely not strict. I wouldn't say I'm strict at all. Actually, I am actually, patty in her hands when we go. She's always wants to go shopping with me because.
Are you stricter here than at home? Or same?
No, I'm stricter here.
Okay.
No, I'm definitely stricter here.
And do you feel that there's a slight buffer or barrier because she's your stepdaughter?
I think a little bit. I think a little bit because of what she experienced with her dad. So I think she's really hurt from that. So it's a bit scared to get too close.
Close, yeah.
Yeah. So she'll open up a little bit, and I think she wants to open up more, but struggles with it a bit. And it's just it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a time thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. You said she's soft-hearted?
Yeah, very much.
Tell me a bit more about her. Other than that, what are her ambitions? What does she like to do? And what's your favorite activity with her?
So, she loves her artwork. She's very creative. Art, makeup, all of that sort of really girly stuff like that. She's a great. She's not into throwing a rugby ball around with me. Unfortunately, I've tried many times. She'd always want to come watch the boys train though. Already at 12 years old, which is a problem. So I'm glad she's out of here. That's the one thing.
By the way, that thing starts early.
Yeah,
my boys are 5. It starts there.
That was a bit much for me. But she's a great swimmer, so she loves her swimming. And then we just started on the weekend when I was down in Cape Town with her. She went to her first, I don't know if you know what nippers is, but it's the junior lifeguarding.
Okay.
And they had a Sunday with just kids everywhere. Training on the beach, paddling out to sea, just learning great stuff to be lifeguards, to be junior lifeguards. And what an awesome day. So I was only there for one day, but I spoke to the guys. I think that might end up being my favorite activity with her because I'm going to join in because, geez, it looked like fun.
So it looked like, because it's something she's enjoying, and then you found a physical activity that you guys can do together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, for me to connect with her with other stuff she was doing, and I'm a terrible swimmer, was hard to connect there. And it was hard exactly to find something to connect with. And you just hit the nail on the head. I feel like that we can connect with that nicely. So when I do go down 2 weeks, I'm definitely going to go try that out.
Yeah.
And then I'll see how it goes when we move down officially.
Okay. So for other fathers, in your situation, let's say they're getting maybe into a relationship and they find a partner who has a child already. Based on what you've learned so far, what would you say is some of the things you've learned? Approach it like this, and this is, I think, maybe not the best way to do it. So some of the pros and cons.
So I think the biggest thing I learned was having patience. Really have patience, because I'd never, I've coached kids and I've managed them for years, between ages of 13 and 18 or whatever. But her, when we first got together, she was only 7, so I didn't have a lot of experience. And I think the main thing I learned was just be patient with them, and with mom, of course, because that's her priority. Yeah. So don't for 1 second think you're going to come in and be the priority. I think so. Just know that that's your position coming in. Be number 2 and be okay with that. Okay. And then be hugely patient with the kids. You don't understand them, you don't know them. And as I've got to know her and love her, and learn that patience, she loves you back. I think that word patience is huge. I struggled with it in the beginning. Yeah. I don't think I was patient enough with her, and playful enough.
Yeah. What was you thinking? Fall in line. This is.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe because of working with the rugby kids all the time, and you kind of can discipline them straight up, and it's very different to a little girl, and especially a little girl who's been through a lot. Yeah. Being hard didn't help at all. Trying to shout at her or whatever, it just didn't make sense. But it took a while to learn that. So you also got to get to know the person well enough to know what works and what doesn't. Which funny it is, because that's what I do with every one of the boys I coach.
Yeah.
You got to get to know every single one of them to know how to get the best out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I should have taken that into my parenting, which first up I didn't, but
Yeah.
obviously after a while I did.
Okay.
And now I find I'm way more patient with her and way more loving, like love.
Yeah.
It's
And
you
she's
just
more
give
open
love.
now and receptive to you.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say is the one thing that you learned from her that you took to the boys, besides the thing that you just mentioned now, which is listening and patience, and from the boys that you've implemented with her?
Sure, that's tough. I mean, I think from the boys' side, I've just learned so much about teaching and how each person learns differently and is motivated differently, and how you kind of get into their heads to get them to do things differently. I've tried to take that across to Riley,
Yeah.
but damn, it's difficult with your daughter. It's like anything you say, they want to do the opposite.
Nah.
So it doesn't matter if you're a professional in anything. Get someone else to speak to your kids. I think that's a big thing. Like, I can talk to all the other parents' kids that I coach, and they listen to me. But I think if
Because you're someone else.
because I'm someone else.
Yeah.
And if I say it to Riley, doesn't listen. She'll tell me how to condition my boys. You know?
Okay.
So I mean, I think that's something, is just let someone else give advice on anything you want. Like, yeah, I'll tell my cousin Nick at the gym, I'd rather to speak to my daughter because she'll listen to him.
Yeah.
And then from her to take to the boys, geez, I think, and I know I've said it a lot, but I think that word patience. I've learned a hell of a lot of that in the last couple of years. Yeah.
Were you an impatient guy, Charlie?
Yeah, definitely.
Uh-huh.
Bit impatient, bit abrasive,
Yeah.
bit aggressive.
Where is that coming from?
Irish blood.
Yeah.
Just Irish.
I picture you as a quiet, calm person. Was that the sort of demeanor that you had, but underneath it was different?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I know I got the nickname Chiller for a reason. I was a bit relaxed at school. But yeah, I think I a tendency to lose it a bit here and there in some places. I think it would maybe have been a portion of my life where, whatever the reasons were, I get a bit of anger issues here and there. But yeah, I mean, I even went to see someone about those things. You know, you go and you open up, and then I saw a couple of times and read one or two books, and geez, and then at the same time had my daughter and Bron, and together, and just the patience just grew. You know, and I got over all that anger.
Okay.
But it was geez, it took time, eh?
Yeah. Was it the same at home when you were growing up? Because you said you had a great relationship with your dad.
No, it wasn't. Not at all. My dad was super chill there. My dad, super relaxed, supported everything we did. Unbelievable father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what are some of the best things you learned from him?
Be here all day. Sort of the art of communicating with people, the importance of relationships. He was a huge relationship guy. So, I mean, he was a great businessman, but, you know, in his factory, he would be the one who would go down onto the floor in the factory, even though he was the CEO, and go and have a chuff outside with the workers, you know, to get to know them. And just recently we got left with, after he passed away in 2016, we got left with one of his businesses that my cousin was running, and unfortunately not running very well, so we had to go in and help it out, me and my brother. But I took those lessons from him, and I was on the floor with the guys, you know, getting to know them, and so was my little brother. And, you know, those kind of things make a big difference. So the relationship, I think that. And now being in the sports office, you know, you just got relationships with everyone. Yeah. Because it just works so much better when you're working together. Eh? So, I mean, there was huge lessons learned from him. He helped me out in business early on. So accounting, I know it's not a touchy-feely skill, but it was important.
But it's important.
When I opened my first business, he said, no, it was old school. Here's your accounting book. Here's your pencil. Every single day at Cash Up, you plug the numbers in.
Exactly.
Once you've done that for 6 months, we can do automated systems. I mean, we also had the automated systems, but he wanted me to understand what was going in and what was going on.
Get your hands dirty,
exactly.
like literally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like those things are so important, you know. Yeah, listen, I also think I learned a few things and what not to do. You know, he
Yeah.
completely overspoiled me and my brother.
Okay.
And I feel like we might have learned a lot more lessons in life earlier on if he had let us fail a bit by ourselves instead of
Okay.
just helping. So you can't always get it right. You can be a great father and you can get it wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't think I would spoil my kid as much as.
So
as
like
he-
how? Like practical things?
Oh, like instead of funding my first business, say go out and get a loan.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
go and learn how to take a loan, or the first house. Go and get a bond. Go and learn those practical life lessons. So I mean, my little brother now, he's 29. So Den and I, that's my other brother. Sorry, there's three of us.
Yeah.
So I'm 41, Den's 39, and he's only 30. So we're trying to get him to learn those things. So
you're doing the manual thing with him.
well, he wants to go and get a house now.
Okay.
My mom could probably buy him that house and he could pay her back or whatever. But he's saying, no, let's go out and get a bond.
Okay.
Go get that bond.
Is
go
this
learn
you
how to
guys
do it.
as the elder brothers?
Yes, exactly.
Saying,
Advising
approach
him.
it like this,
Exactly.
so that you are accountable and you can actually look after it, as opposed to
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And what we think my dad could have done better with us. Like that kind of thing. So we could have learned it before he passed away. Because he passed away and then suddenly you're learning lessons in fast forward
very
and you're
quickly,
like, oh,
right?
crap. Yeah.
Okay.
But so, yeah, I think those are a few things my dad taught. But I mean, I think every day, whatever work I'm doing, I think, and I'll do something and I'm like, geez, my dad would have probably done that, or my dad would have done this. So he's always in there somewhere,
So that's an interesting thing you said, ne? So a lot of guys, myself included, will be like, I want to work hard so that my kids want for nothing. So if you get to a place where you can, right, and I suppose that's your dad too, you get a place to where you can do these things for your kids. How do you switch that up and say, listen, do it yourself?
And that I don't know, because that was exactly his philosophy. Was he wanted to work his ass off so that we wanted for nothing. So he did what his goal. He achieved his goal, and he wanted us to want for nothing. And we both turned out fine, and we learned our lessons when he passed away, and we both good, and we running successful businesses and that kind of thing. So what he did maybe wasn't wrong, but I think it could be done differently. I don't know yet because I haven't got to that stage with my daughter. I mean, I might just spoil the crap out of her. Probably will.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So I suppose it's so hard to say to your kid, no, go out and do that when you can help them. Yeah.
And do you find that to be, in an environment like this, do you find that to be the typical way of doing stuff, where a lot of the young people don't necessarily have to work as hard for things?
Yeah, definitely.
And how does that play itself out in terms of...
Well, the way I'm trying to
yeah.
remedy it, or maybe just assist that whole thing, is I make them work their arse off for rugby. So we set a certain standard, we set certain levels that they have to be at to put the white jersey on, which was tough when I got here because it was quite a low level. But we've got back to a high level again, and there's respect back in that jersey. So we set standards, and there's no ways you're playing in that white jersey if you don't make those minimum requirements, and you're not at training during exams and like those things. So I think that work ethic we're putting into them in rugby will hopefully transfer to the real world.
Yeah.
That's my ultimate goal, is to transfer that work ethic to the real world, because the chance of any of them, of many guys, any school, wherever, making it as a professional rugby player is so low. So we're not training professional rugby players, we're training professional workforce,
Sure.
So I want those guys to go out and make it in life. And I think that effort we make them put in is going to help there.
So I think you find yourself in a very unique place, obviously, right? Because you're an educator, but you're an educator at an elite school. So we do come across a lot of young people and families that are, well off. And you do come across kids that are not so well off. So you get to see that entire thing. Do you think there's a disconnect from elite schools and real society? And that'll play itself out when, for example, maybe the kids get into society, or, for example, your dad passes away and then suddenly you have to now step up into the real world.
I'm not sure there's a disconnect. I think most of the guys come out and they go to the university and they get their internship or their articles, and they learn about the real world in time. I think it could be done better, it could and quicker. If I'm not sure the education system's perfect, but I don't, it works. I mean, business are running. All these kids come out of here. I bet you 95% of them do well. Even those kids who are not from these privileged backgrounds, I think Saints gives them a great base to go and make something of their future, disconnect's tough because I think even though the system's not perfect, I think it's still working and the guys are going into the workforce and they're adding value somewhere.
Okay. So how do you then manage the noise? Again, I'm coming back to this noise thing because I mean, you guys, you see chat on social media, right? You see that there's a huge conversation around elite schools and potentially how privileged everyone is and how they're not part of society and whatnot. And there is a lot of noise around that, particularly if there's an incident or an issue. So if an incident happens at one school, it supposedly happens at all the schools. You know what I mean? So my question then is, with all of that's happening and all this stuff that's on social media about elite schools and the privilege and the exclusivity about it all, things like when the top 20 list of the most expensive school comes out, right? I don't even know what the hell that means, but we see it a lot. And I'm an alumni, right? So we all get it. So for you guys then, how do you block out that noise? Or is it something that doesn't factor in to your daily?
Yeah, it's simple, but honestly, it's just not a thing we talk about. It's not something we bring up. It's so whether I'm doing it on purpose or not, it's just not mentioned. So we don't talk about elite. We talk about rugby fraternity. We are not elite rugby players, so we can't say we're elite. We're in our sphere. We're not Paul Gymnasium. Or Paul Rus, one of these. So money just doesn't factor into anything we do, and we've never brought it up. So whether it bothers the kids or not, I know it does affect one or two of our scholarship kids who come in trying to connect with the Saints boys and understand the life and be like, geez, well, this guy's going back to this mansion and he's got, these fancy shoes and I don't and whatever. So one or two boys who are a bit, should I say, uncertain, a bit younger, they sometimes feel that. But the more confident, assertive scholarship boys, they're absolutely fine. They just fit in and they carry on. So I think that might be the one issue that we try and deal with. And I know Teresa, you know him, he's very good at that because he's been through it himself. And he's in the boarding house with the boys. So he deals with those issues really well. But as far as in our system, we just ignore that stuff. And if one of the boys brings it up, you just ignore it. Anything that we don't want involved in our culture, we leave it out.
Okay. If you're the Minister of Education in South Africa, what would you do? So now it's your portfolio. You can run with it.
And obviously he's got to have funding, So it depends what his funding is. If you've got funding, you've got to go out and you've got to train teachers. But not just train them in whatever old school methods they've been training them in, like teaching is advanced now, where you're teaching life skills, critical analysis, not just pass the test. You obviously got to train your teachers. So just thinking of the cuff here, what I did here, got great coaches in. You got to get great teachers in. Obviously,
the right people in.
The right people.
Yeah.
People make a difference, man. The biggest thing in life. Biggest thing. So you've just got to bring the right people in around you there and then get those right people into the schools that you have. But, the funding that's going to take and the time it's going to take is long. It can be done if you've got money. It can definitely be done.
Yeah.
But is it the right education minister?
Well, you are.
If I am.
Yeah. You would have to be.
Do I know enough about education? Am I qualified?
No, well, you are in education, right? So you know a lot better than most of us.
If I had the funding and I was there, I would surround myself with the right people and get their ideas, and say, okay, what are we going to do and how are we going to do this and how long it's going to take? And then we got to then explain to the world why. So those are the things, but it all comes down to people.
Yeah.
So I was listening to one of my inspirational guys the other day, just to try and get better at the teaching and running my organization. And every organization starts with a why.
Okay.
If you've got
Who are you listening to, by
if
the
you
way?
got the why right.
Sounds like Simon Sinek.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I was listening to his book the other day. And it's just so funny because without even knowing it, we did it in our rugby community. We had the reason first of why we're here.
Yeah.
And then what are we going to do? And then how are we going to do it? And then I went and he had put it all into this, process. And you're like, wow, there it is.
Yeah.
But I'll just go back to that. I mean, isn't it simple? But again, come back to that. You've got to have the right people. Got to have the right people around you.
Awesome, Charlie. Give me your 3 things. You remember what you wrote here in terms of tool tricks. Now
Yo,
you're going to give
remember what
advice
I
to fathers. You said be present.
I think that's hugely important. Be
Yeah.
present. Yeah. I never mentioned that earlier. I was all talking about patience, but being there, just putting your phone away, that kind of stuff. I know it just makes a big difference to Riley. She just wants it, just wants you to see her dance.
Yeah.
Or, I want to show you this. Okay. Phone down, watch.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said ask the right questions.
And that's what I find difficult.
Yeah.
Is when you want to get them to do something or get some information, geez, it's like draining water from stone. And so if you can learn to ask the right questions, you'll be able to connect better.
Yeah. Okay. What's like a right question? Give me an example.
Sure.
Because
Let's think. Just trying to think now. So she sits in the car with me after the day at school. You can't go and say how was school?
Okay. Generic.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, tell me what, one thing you learned at school, or, what did you and your friends do at break?
Yeah.
Something that you might actually enjoy talking about if you actually want to talk to them after school. Because, there's listen, I haven't got it right, as you can hear. I'm like,
you're getting there.
Yeah, I'm getting there, still working on that. And now her being away from me, I don't get to ask the questions now. So it's quite tough. But, it's just thinking about something that she might actually want to talk about, because they come home from school and no, thanks.
Yeah, or something that she did and it's a follow-up. So you said
or on the way to school, and
Yeah.
did you learn anything yesterday? Was anything new that you learned yesterday, or what happened in English, or something like that. She keeps calling me a life orientation teacher, so that's tough. Because I'll come in with my own comment somewhere about some philosophical thing, about training or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, thanks, Mr. L.O." So I haven't got it right.
It's okay. But my niece is 14 now.
Yeah.
Same thing. Because when they start, there's a thing inside us that says, now it's time for a lesson now.
Yeah, exactly. And also, we're driving around Cape Town, and I'm like, oh, and this history of this place. And she's like, oh, thanks, history teacher. Nah. So I'm going to try maybe just learn to keep my mouth shut.
No, you can't. You can't. Listen here. My niece, she was failing design technology. And I stopped the car. I was picking up. She goes to school in Krugersdorp. I was like, listen here. I'm going to tell you the importance of design technology. I'm not moving until you understand. We have an hour's drive and you're going to listen. She listened. She passed. She's passing now.
I think it sinks in somewhere along the line.
Yeah, it does.
Even though they just take the piss out of us, it sinks in.
Yeah. Cool. And the last thing you said, give love.
Yeah. That's just for everything. Everything in life is give love. If people know you love them, they'll give back.
Yeah.
Whether it's my daughter, whether it's my wife, whether it's my boys in the gym, I absolutely love all of them, and give them everything. And and that's it. Just give loads of love.
And in closing, Charlie, since you work with young people, what's your dream for South Africa?
If we could all just have that culture Rassie built throughout this country, Man, what a different place it would be. Yeah. And that's a whole culture based on love and hard work and just all getting along and doing something else for the person next to you. We could learn a lot from that. And I think if the guys at the top took that philosophy, guys running this place, the country would be the best in the world. It still is the best in the world, but it could be even better.
Yeah. 100%. Charles Post, Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate your time.
Yeah.
This was a interesting, valuable episode for us.
It was very interesting for me. I've never done this before, so thank you for having me. It's awesome.
No
Appreciate
problem.
it. Appreciate you.
Cool,
Cheers.
brother. Thanks, man. Cheers. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Before you leave, I wanted to ask that quick favor again. If you enjoyed the show, please hit the subscribe button and leave a rating and a review. This really helps other people find the podcast and get more out of it. And again, if you know any other timer that might benefit from listening, please share the episode with them. Until the next episode, sharp.